Good afternoon or evening, Raider Nation, depending on what time you'll watch this on-demand video. The first coaches show for the 2018 football season. Along with me as head football coach for the Bacon County Red Raiders, Mr. Kyle Langford. First of all, I want to start off by mentioning a couple of our gold sponsors this year. I definitely want to give them as much recognition as possible during our on-demand and our live broadcast of Red Raider football. That's Jay's IGA, that's Burt's CPAs, Access ATC, Broadband, Clean Air and Electric, Bacon County Hospital System, Lassiter Tractor, John Deere out of Douglas, Georgia, and Bennett & Johnson Insurance. I want to thank all of these folks for joining in one more season to get down in the trenches with us, so to speak.
It's good to have, you got a group you can count on that's going to be behind us and be all for these boys, and then you get a couple of new ones every year. It seems like we've added some the last couple of years, and this year's no exception. And that boy, it's a good group, and to have people you can rely on to make sure that you have what you need and make sure this program is run like it's supposed to be. That's certainly a blessing for us.
Well, that's one thing we try to do every year. I know the Booster Club, but it's good to have a head coach that feels that it's just as important to have a program that looks the part. Whether you're going to, sometimes you don't always perform or play or everything don't go the way you want it to go, but our boys are going to be well prepared, well dressed.
We're going to look first class. And
right.
The bigger than that, though, we got first class facilities. We're going to look first class, but more so than that, we're going to act first class on the field and off the field. And that's something I'm excited about this year's group of Red Raiders. It's been such a pleasure to be around them. I really enjoyed it, and I expect that they keep a positive attitude and the way they're working, they're going to really get better and improve as this year goes along.
Well, let's get right into the year, Coach. We've had a lot going on during the summer. If we talked about that before the show, how much we would expand upon that, but I think we're just going to focus more on the preseason. We'll touch on a couple of the preseason games and where you see some improvement and maybe where we need some more work, and then obviously we'll talk about Fitzgerald game this past Friday night, and then ultimately we'll culminate with what's ahead for us this weekend. But tell us a little bit about the preseason, these last couple of weeks, other than the fact, we spent a lot of time looking at the weather radar, it seemed like.
Well, it's just that time of year. I told somebody this is the first time in my life, in 23 years of coaching football, that we've had 3 straight weeks of weather delays or problems with the weather. But there's nothing you can do about it. You ain't going to beat Mother Nature. But boy, I tell you what, if you could ask anybody, pick you 4 tough ones. I think we started out with 4 very tough ones. And Appling, I was really impressed with them. Coach Tomlin, you can just feel his presence and the way that he has that program going. One thing I admire about him so much, and we've played him up through the years, so I'm very familiar with him, but one thing you can say about him is he has a vision for that program, and he has a direction for that program, and there's no doubt that they're on the way. If you saw them with us on August 3rd, that that they're a fine team. I thought they were really physical. And talent-wise, I think it's the best team they've had over at Appling, and since I've been here in 5 years, I thought they looked really good.
Well, they definitely looked a lot better from last year. We give them all they wanted over here and had a chance to put the screws to them. And you talk about a AAA school that has had some talent through the years, and now they've got a first-class coach that knows how to build a program, how to win. And he's bringing that to the table at Appling County. And
he'll get it done. I think he has a good staff, and the boys seem very good. And that's one thing I'll note also about him. His young men play with class. We fought as hard as we could. We made our fair share of mistakes, but the game was a classy game on both sides. And that's what you want. As a high school coach and as a parent, you want the kids to go out there and play as hard as they can, compete. We can't control winning and losing sometimes. Sometimes it might not be our day, sometimes it is. But it's the way you play the game hard, you get after each other, and when it's all over, you ought to have enough class and enough sense to be able to shake hands and enjoy just the competition of it. And that has been the case with with all three of the first games, to be quite honest with you. I've been really impressed with them, and that speaks highly of the coaches that lead the programs, you know.
Coach, who were a couple of the kids that stood out for you in that Appleton County game, offense or defense? You don't have to elaborate on both. That you remember. I know it's been a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about it. You know, offensively, if I can be frank with you, we've got a lot of issues to work out, and you know, they're trying hard. We just ain't there yet. We're counting on, you know, out of 11 starters, you've got only 4 that have any kind of varsity experience. So we're counting on 7 guys who have never contributed in a varsity football game to make plays, and that's very difficult. And generally speaking, this time of year, defenses are usually ahead of offenses anyway, and that's the case we're at. We're behind. We're searching for playmakers right now. We're looking for something we can hang our hat on. We talked about that at our meeting this weekend. You know, right now I don't know if we have anything we can hang our hat on. Last year and the year before and the year before, we've always had something we can go to, and right now that's just, we haven't found it yet. It's out there and we will find it, but as of right now, that's something we're having trouble finding. But you know, on the defense side, I really thought, barring, we had 3 breakdowns in the secondary, and that's just off of coaching, to be quite frank with you. We had 3 blown calls defensively, and that goes back to me. But I thought the kids played hard. I thought they flew around. And I tell you what I've seen a defense take a little uptick every week. And I know, you know, it might not be so easy to see to the person just sitting in stands watching the game, but I think defense is starting to improve a little bit. And I feel comfortable with the direction they're going. Now we just got to get the offense to kind of click on in that way too.
Well, let's shift to the week after, which would have been Atkinson County, and you had said all summer this team had really improved.
Yeah.
They got a new coach as well.
Right. Well, it's the second year.
Well, it's the second year. I'm sorry. But he had some players and playmakers. I know on 7-on-7, y'all faced them a couple times during the summer, so we were looking forward to that. We had a weather delay, and then explain the situation with how the format of that game. I was in the stands, and we were kind of confused as well.
Well, it's up, generally speaking, it's up to the head coach to determine what the format will be on the scrimmage games. You can play the regular time just like you would in a normal game, but as far as who you put on the field at what times, that's completely up to you. And it was suggested to me that we play the JV first, and so that's what we did. We got young guys on the field, which was good in theory. All right, the theory of it was good, but what we didn't take into account is that, or we should have took into account, is that there was going to be rain and bad weather and all that. So we really didn't get a quarter of the varsity guys in, and I was very disappointed in that. But I was, you know, probably just as much disappointed with the execution, you know, as much as anything. I thought, and not with the kids, but with me. And I thought I didn't do a very good job. We have since corrected some of those things, I feel. But when you give up 4 turnovers just off of special teams mistakes, that's really inexcusable. You know, you ought to have the right people on the field, and you ought to be able to execute special teams. It's important, and Lord knows we spend time every day on it because it is that important. You know, people say all the time, an old saying goes, you may not win a game with special teams, but you'll sure lose one with special teams. And that is the case. And, you know, if you don't work on it, the weakness will be shown. And if you don't have the right people, the weakness will be shown. And so that's something we spend extra time on making sure we have correct. And, you know, I think that was the whole ATCO game in a nutshell, was we didn't come out very ready, prepared to play. I think we just kind of thought we'd roll it out there and push them around a little bit. And then that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And we had our chances early. Once again, we don't connect on a couple passes, and now here you go. Instead of, you know, first down to 50, now we're sitting there 3rd and 10 or whatever.
Right.
And then that's a problem for us.
Right.
So yeah, we were just glad to get that game, as much of it done, and then kind of wipe it out of our memories. And we hadn't spoken of it, and you know, other than a few nightmares, I hadn't thought about it very much. But
I'm sorry, I had to bring it up.
No, it's important.
But I know what you mean.
It's part of your season.
That's right, it is. Well, you know, in my classroom, I try to encourage my kids to not panic when they make mistakes, right? Because you can learn from it. And and I'm sure that's what your coaching staff and these boys are doing.
Well, we tell them before we go out every game, and this is a fact, and I've never seen it any other way. You know, you'll have, in the course of a football game, something really bad is going to happen to you, and something really good is going to happen to you. And neither one of those are going to define winning and losing, but it's the way that we react to it, and the way that we have poise and class and all that. That's what makes you a winner or loser. You know, now if you have something bad happen, you want to correct it, get your mind right, fix it, make sure it doesn't happen again. Because if it keeps happening again, you will lose, and you'll lose bad. So that's what we try to point out to our kids.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, we're going to discuss Fitzgerald and what we have coming this Friday night. And we'll also talk a little bit about, Coach will talk about where you ate last week and those top sponsorships for breakfast and that sort of thing as well. So we thank you for joining us on the first edition of the Red Raider Coaches Show for the 2018 season. Welcome back to the Red Raider Coaches Show. Again, thank you for joining us. Brent Johnson along with Coach Kyle Langford here, the first edition of the 2018 football season. Coach, before we go any further, we want to thank some people again as far as some sponsorships, more specifically for our breakfast this past Friday morning. And if you're unaware, if you're just joining us this year for our Coaches Show, we're able to get some sponsors to provide breakfast on Friday mornings at one location at the First Baptist Church in Alma. They have a nice facility there that the breakfast is cooked by 8 or 10 individuals. I don't have their names today, but I will for the next show just to give them some recognition. The guys that come and cook, they provide them. That's
probably top secret. I don't know if we can share that.
Okay.
Maybe at a later date we'll share it. You know.
But they cook. I'm talking, man. They don't hold back. It's bacon, it's grits, it's eggs, it's pancakes.
It's anything that you could possibly dream of. And boy, these boys have all they want to eat, and they go to school with a full belly on Friday. And you know, generally when you get a full belly, you're in a little bit better mood. You feel a little more positive about life, and we appreciate it because, you know, we take for granted that so many of us get breakfast in the morning and have a nice meal, and these boys really appreciate it, and they've been perfect gentlemen and very thankful for it, you know.
And we want to thank DLE and Sons for their part in sponsorship of breakfast, and they'll be sponsoring us all season long, along with Mr. Daniel Moore, as well as Taylor Farms. We want to thank all of those for providing that breakfast. And like, you know, Coach just said, you know, a lot of these kids, they don't eat breakfast in the mornings. Even when they come to school, they get off the bus, a lot of them ride, and they would Friday morning anyway, normally. So we want to thank them for that. And also, Coach, we were able to get some churches in our local community to provide a lunch, dinner type pregame meal for the kids. And who was this first week's? Who had the opportunity to do it?
Well, we started off hot this week. We had New Vision, and boy, I tell you what, you walk in, they just got food, piled upon food, and it's, you know, you can't believe the quantity of food that they have, and it is really so fantastic. And that's one thing we've been blessed at. Boy, there's no duds in this lineup. Everybody's good, and the boys eat, and they get what they need to eat, and they feel good. And but the churches are so gracious. They bring these boys in and they love them and they welcome them and have a chance to minister to them also. And that's what we're all about. We're not only about bringing up and training football players, we're about training young men and guiding them in the direction we need them to go and they need to go in. And, you know, Mr. Dan Taylor had a devotion for us and he did a real good job too. It was, you can just tell when the kids know when they're loved and they know when they're welcome. They go in, they're comfortable, and I tell you what, they really had super manners, and that's something we instill in our kids and demand from them. But these churches, I promise you, we don't take that for granted. And boy, the list of churches wanting to do it is just ridiculous. You know, everybody is fighting and wanting those dates, and so that's something a lot of communities don't have. You know, you can't hardly beg anybody to do something for your kids, and here, you know, sometimes we have to turn them away and put them on a waiting list, but we're blessed to have that, and well, like I said, it's always good, and it's always something we look forward to, and it takes such a burden off of our, you know, touchdown club and our school to be able to feed these boys. It's the only place I've ever been that we do it like this, and I really like it, and I appreciate it so much.
Well, I know that like you said, all these churches, they use it as a ministry tool. Even at breakfast, there's a ministry there. The local ministerial alliance, the youth pastors in our area, they take turns giving devotionals in the morning as well as they enjoy their breakfast. Well, Coach, let's jump right into this game we had this past Friday night, which we had some weather issues again, but we were able to get it in from start to finish. Although we started about 9:25, I believe it was, but. Before we even say that, I've had tons of people ask me, what in the world are we playing Fitzgerald for? So tell us a little bit how that come about.
Well, it's twofold, really. Number one fold is because that's the kind of a program that I admire, and I think we need to emulate. But the thing is, I don't want people to get it twisted any. You know, Fitzgerald's been doing what they're doing for 50, 60 years. Mm-hmm. And we've been doing what we do now for, maybe 10. So we've got a ways to go in the consistency part of doing it in a certain way. But that's a program I admire, and I think that would be an excellent program for us to try to be like. And I want to have the success that they've had, and I think our boys do too. But there's no magic formula. You know, we're not going to sprinkle fairy dust on anybody and be magically, Fitzgerald. That ain't happening. But we have to be on the field with them. You got to compete with them so you'll know what it takes to get to that next level. And I think that's real important for us. The way that Fitzgerald particularly came about, our contracts, we do contracts. I start on those probably in October of the previous year. So we started on the contracts, and we had our contracts done by the end of November. A valid signed contract. Well, they're not official until March 1st. March 1st is when you send them into the GHSA. GHSA verifies them, and it's a done deal. So it's done after that. Up until that point, there is some leeway that schools may have. So what we had the day before contracts were due, I had a school call me on just a regular morning. It was like it's a Friday morning, and they said, "Look, we're going to break our contract. We don't wish to play you," just out of the blue. So we really didn't have much legal recourse at that time, and we were stuck with a 9-game season. Mm-hmm. So we actually called the GHSA and said, "This is our situation. We have limited dates that we can play, obviously, and then we look for somebody either week 0 or week 4 or whatever." And they called and said, "Well, we've got 3 possibilities for you." They said, possibility number 1 is Fitzgerald, possibility number 2 would be Cairo, and possibility number 3 would be High School of Gainesville in Georgia. Mm. Now, Gainesville's a 6.5-hour drive, Cairo's 3.5, and Fitzgerald's right down the road in a AA school, dealing from the same deck of cards we are, so to speak. Right. So to me, that was a no-brainer, and that's just the way it happened. Now, I don't think physically we matched up well, obviously, from anybody to watch the game, but at the same time, teams in our region are as good as them. Mm. That's the facts. Swainsboro is good. Jeff Davis is good. There's a lot of people in our region, Vidalia, Toombs. Our region is full of good teams. And for us to be the kind of program we want to be this year, not 10 years down the road, but this year, we're going to have to compete with teams just like that. And another way is in preparation for Pierce. You figure if you can compete and get on the field with Fitzgerald, you ought to be able to get on the field and compete with Pierce. And so there's a method to the madness. I know it may seem ridiculous, but they are a AA school.
Right.
And if we aspire to beat something in this state one day, then we're going to have to beat people like that, and we're going to have to play people like that.
That's right. Now, you mentioned something earlier. When you see a score, and the majority of the people read it in the paper or heard it on the radio, you see 45-7, and you think, oh my goodness. But what I took away, and I shot you a message Saturday morning, I saw an improved, believe it or not, I saw an improved Bacon County football team from the previous 2
Right.
weeks.
I thought special teams was really
Our
good.
special teams had improved. I was super impressed. I know we give up some points, but I thought our defense were flying around the field and made some good plays, big plays. And we just couldn't take advantage
Right.
of some extra opportunities that you'll talk about, some possible pick six opportunities, those types of things that could have changed the dynamic of the game. Maybe not the outcome over as far as the win or loss, but it could have been a different ball game with certain things that would have been executed on offense, and as well as those few plays on defense. But overall, again, I saw, believe it or not, I saw, for the average person out there, I saw a better football team this past Friday night from Bacon County.
There was no quit, not an ounce of quit. There was no hanging your head. There's no feeling sorry for yourself. It was, and when you're on the field with a team like that, you are playing to survive. You're playing to get better. You're playing to improve and compete. And I felt like we did that, especially, the first, third, fourth quarters I thought were very good. It's the second quarter that we had a couple of mishaps and things kind of got away from us. But if you think back, we had 3 stops. Defense had 3 stops in the first half. And should have had 4. But that's impressive in itself. And that gave us a chance. We had our chance to get back in the ball game. We didn't make plays and do that. And that's unfortunate because, at the time, I think it's 14-7, 17-7. If we make a play and now it's a, 7-point, 10-point game, who knows how it comes out.
Right.
Maybe they put their foot down on the pedal even harder, who knows. But then again, maybe we do too. Maybe we get a little confidence and make another play. And that's usually contagious. Usually in a game of football, if somebody makes a play on defense or a play on offense, it kind of builds off each other. And that's where we're having problems right now. We don't have much to build off of. We're not making plays on offense. The defense will make plays as long as we can, and then we'll give up something crazy, But I thought the boys were fine. The boys weren't the problem, and we just got to coach them up harder and try to get prepared a little more every week. We still evaluate personnel. And one thing I can tell you with a clear conscience, and we're going to put the best 11 on the field. And we're going to put the 11 on the field that's going to give Bacon County High School the best chance to win. And we evaluate that every day. So it's not like we come in the season, a lot of times you think, well, that's kind of penciled in. There is nothing penciled in with us. And it's a day-to-day situation. When you go to practice, you compete and you fight and you work during that starting spot. There's nothing given to you. And we've got enough players that are hungry and want to be on the field that they compete every day. And that's the way it should be. That's what good programs do. Because we're not in any situation where we say, oh, we're going to have to play old Johnny this week. No, we play people that deserve to wear that red helmet and that BC on it. And if you don't play.
Well, talk about special teams, and that was one of the things that we struggled, the first 2 preseason games. We got one of the best, I think, one of the best kickers, when he's given the opportunity in the state, at least AA,
right.
With Ronaldo. And I thought something that stood out was our kickoff returns.
Yeah, returns were much improved, and we
from a blocking standpoint, as well as just Bell making some money. He stuff you don't coach.
We changed the alignment too. We went to a little bit different thing, something I've done in the past that we didn't do last year. And then we just reevaluated all the personnel. We went player by player and trying to put people on the field that are going to give us a chance to return one and put us in a position to put the offense in position. We can't start inside of 20. This offense isn't designed for that right now. So we've got to be on the positive side on these returns. And I thought, we were close to busting 2 the other night. And then we got down there on a 41, 42-yard field goal try. and it's plenty long enough. He pulled a little bit to the left, but you know, he's got plenty of leg, and more times than not, he's going to make that. And I thought in that situation, we kind of need to get points on the board, and that'd be something to build off of.
That's right.
But and just kind of get that first field goal, just like anything else. It's kind of nerve-wracking, and he got it out of the way. And I thought the blocking held up fine. The snap was fine. You know, sometimes you make them, sometimes you don't, especially on a long one like that.
Right.
But yeah, I thought special teams better. I thought, you know, the punt team was improved. You know, you take away the first series, we had a bad snap roll back to him, and when that happens, you're in trouble.
Right.
And we were. But after that, we got that corrected. Snaps were fine the rest of the game. Punts were fine. Coverage was okay. I think we're going to have to improve a little bit on coverage this week. But yeah, like I said, the kids want to do better. I mean, it's not like the kids never go on the field and say, you know what, I'm really going to mess this up. They don't do that. They're doing the best they can do. And like we said, they're always going to do two things. They're going to do what we coach them to, or what we allow them to. And for us, we're trying to coach them a little harder, coach them a little better, and put them in a position to be successful so they can help this school out and community out also.
Well, Coach, tell us a little bit about what we're going to face this Friday night as we have to travel over to the Bears' den. You know, I know we're facing again one of the better coaches. A lot of people would say one of the top coaches in the state. You know, from his resume, his record as a head coach through multiple schools, and Fitzgerald being his last school, and coming from there. You know, last year Pierce struggled early on in the season, adjusting to his style of coaching and the implementation of his offense mainly.
Right.
And now, of course, I think they're running a little bit different offense this year.
No, same.
It is the exact same.
Exact same.
I know he's got some different personnel they sure look different than they did last year, just all the way around on what little bit of film
Well, you know,
that I've seen.
Kids get older, they work in the weight room, their bodies start to change. I mean, he played a lot of young guys last year, and he's sort of in a situation, you know, he's in our situation last year, you know, having to play guys that hadn't played a lot on Friday nights. And, you know, as the season went on, they made the second round of playoffs and gave the state runner-up, you know, 7-point game with Peach County, so that says a mouthful there. But I think he's an excellent coach and a good human being, even more so than that. But you get excited as a coach. You want to get out there and compete against guys like that and match up. And so we're excited about it. But, yeah, they've got a very good team. Got 2 Division I offensive linemen. And they're really big. I mean, I thought Fitzgerald was huge, and Pierce is probably just as big. And in my opinion, you know, maybe the best Pierce team I've seen since I've been here in 5 years. As far as you know, they're very disciplined on defense and very physical on offense, and then they've got athletes that can run around. And so that's a combination for, you know, to give you a hard time right there. But I think they've got a lot of answers right now to their program, and boy, they look real good. And they handed MCA a big one, a big loss Friday night, but I thought they looked really good, and we're going to have to play. Boy, we're going to have to play.
Well, you know, and what's kind of crazy is, you know, the last, I guess, 15 or I don't know how many years that Pierce has not been in they moved up to that I want to say Division III. It's the AAA.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
Higher classification.
Higher classification. But we've still held on. It seems like as a community, that border war, we're still huge rivals, or we want to be considered rivalry. So it's.
Well, I think it is because anytime you win some, and you look at the last 4 years, we're 2-2.
Yeah.
And I know they don't like that, but that's a fact. And if you look at the last 15 years, I think we've won 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. So it's a good battle, and how. You just think about it, when you get on the field and compete against a school that's got 1,100 kids, and here we sit with 500, that says a lot about our kids' integrity, says a lot about our kids' character. And, we don't cry and we don't back down. We look to play anybody, especially people like that. We enjoy it. A lot of these kids are related and they know each other, and it's a lot of fun. And, shoot, it'll be one of the highlights of my life and highlights of my year playing them. We enjoyed it so much last year, maybe we can have fun again this year.
Well, I know they're going to have a crowd, and I encourage Raider Nation to ease over. It's only about a 25-minute drive to get there. Hopefully, the driving to the stadium, they've had some construction and stuff going on. It may be a little chaotic as you get closer to the stadium. I haven't been over there since the basketball season. There was still some detours and stuff getting over there, but take the back roads over there. Again, it doesn't take long. Fill that stadium. We're going to holler and fuss as much as we can, irregardless of what happens either way. And hopefully our Raiders will continue to improve. I know I saw I said some major improvements on defense, and offense. We just we show. We just hadn't quite got over the hump, is what I would call it, as far as.
And it's like we told them, and I'll be frank with you. Jesus ain't gonna walk back through that door next Friday, and Anthony Madison's not gonna walk back through that door, and neither is Gondrick. All right, and those are three really good players. Yeah. And so we've got to have people to step up, and it's their turn now. And now you've got to make plays. Yeah. All right. We've been fortunate ever since I've been here to have outstanding players on offense, and we do this year. But sometimes when you hear that somebody might say something negative in the school or negative to you at the house, and you internalize that, and you don't have that kind of confidence that you need to have to play this game. And I'm going to tell you what, football is a serious, hard, dangerous game. And if you don't have confidence in yourself and confidence in what you can do, you're not going to be very successful. And our guys work too hard. I tell them, you get up and you do things that nobody else in this state does. And I don't know how they do it. They get up at the crack of dawn, well, before the crack of dawn, middle of the night we get up. And they work hard. And it's a shame if you don't go out there and enjoy it and play the way you're capable of, because they put too much work in not to do that. And I know they're excited about Friday. And Fitzgerald, we cried for a day, and guess what? We over that, and we moving on to the next. And anything that if you can sit still Friday about 7:25, something's wrong with you. You need to go home, because I'll be bouncing around. Yeah. The kids will be excited, and we're gonna go out there and let it ride Friday night and see what happens.
Well, before we shut it down, you mentioned some of these, some of the different changes and things that Pierce is doing. Who's a standout on the offense and defensive side of the ball over there that you would call from film and numbers?
77. He's been offered by everybody in the world. He's an excellent player, boy. Probably
tackle.
Yeah, probably the best offensive lineman we'll play all the year. And then 64 is the other tackle. He looks like he's 360 pounds. He's a monster. But they're all big. I mean, don't be mistaken. They're all big. And I think 9's a really good player. The quarterback, he's still a baby, and boy, he's fantastic now. He's really an outstanding quarterback for him. Number 10's a really good player. And when those guys have the ball, that's when special things happen. Number 7, we could sit here all day. I've been watching film all weekend, and you say, well, we got to stop this, we got to stop that, and then another problem arises. So one thing I know we've got to do, we've got to line up correctly, and we've got to get after that football. And that don't take any brains, and that don't take any thinking. That takes a whole lot of guts. So
that's right.
Line up, get after football, and then let's see what happens. I'm not smart enough to outcoach anybody. It ain't never going to happen. But what we'll do is have our boys prepared to play and play hard and represent this school like it deserves to be. And then we'll let chips fall where they may after that.
That's right. And that's all we can ask for as a community that has rallied around all of Bacon County athletics, from rec ball all the way up to the varsity level. And we're so thankful for the sponsors that do that. I want to touch on those again before we close out here. But Coach, I appreciate you coming down and talking with us in this first show. It's a little awkward for me sitting back in the chair over here. So I'm used to being on the headset behind the camera and not in front of it. So sometimes it's easier to communicate that way. But thank you for what you're doing and what you're trying to do, you and your coaching staff with these young men, as we see them and how they carry themselves in the classroom and walking down the hall. It's just it's fun to watch these guys grow up and become young men and know how to treat people,
Right.
and know how to respect their elders, their teachers, and then ultimately it carries over out into the community.
Well, and generally speaking, a young man that has good character and good integrity, they're going to play hard because something inside of them is going to say, I ain't going to quit, and I'm not going to stop, and I'm going to do my job. And that's what we got with this group. And I feel very confident. I don't worry about them playing hard. They're going to play hard as they can play. Now, whether we play good enough, that's going to be up to them.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to give themselves a chance. And I know Coach Strickland well enough to know Pierce County don't think they're going to roll that helmet out Friday night. They know they're going to be in for a battle for 4 quarters, and that's what we're expecting.
Yeah. Well, that's what we anticipate, folks. And again, I encourage you to go over this Friday night. We will be broadcasting live on the NFHS Network, BCTV Red Raider Productions. But games like this, and you that watch our broadcast, you may not typically go to games anyway, but I want you to get out and go watch this thing live. Go out and support our Red Raiders and Raider Nation as we go over to Pierce County and show up and maybe we can show out. I want to thank once again the gold sponsors for the Red Raider Booster Club: Jay's IGA, Burt's CPA, that's BYRT. CPA is Access ATC, Clean Air and Electric, Bacon County Hospital System, Lassiter Tractor, and Bennett & Johnson. I want to thank them once again, and anybody else that plays a part in supporting these young men and in any capacity. I want to thank our booster president, Mr. Joe Hayes, for all that he does, and his wife Laura, and the other officers, Roger Anderson, as we try to make decisions that will continue to support not only the program, but these players, these young men. So again, we thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Red Raider Coaches Show.